Okay, so I just want to do a quick demo here of how far my test data generator has come so far. What I want to show you is a bit more complicated than just the normal emp-dep schemas and emp-dep tables that I've done before. I want to show you a bit more complicated one, a bit more complicated scenario. We're going to take the HR schema from Oracle. So I have here a database connection to HR. Inside here we have some tables. We have countries with data inside. We have the normal employees table also with data inside. What I want to show you is, let's imagine that we want to create a test scenario for these tables somewhere else. We have this running in production and we need a test scenario or a test setup where we can test out some new features. Now, normally what you have to do is either copy the tables to another database or, basically manually create them somewhere else. But copying the tables from production is usually not something you're allowed to do, especially if we're talking tables like employees, because it contains sensitive and confidential data. So I want to show you what you can do with my package. So one of the most important things before you run my package is that we have statistics on all the tables. So basically my package uses the Oracle statistics to generate meaningful data. So let's just create statistics on all the tables in there. Now we have that. Now the simple thing is that we just want to create a test data set for every table in the HR schema. So it's actually just one command you run. This is the generator set create. If we look at the declaration of this procedure, basically we give it a name. You can set the center table. So what this means is, imagine that you have a schema with more than, let's say, 50 tables. And you don't want to create for all 50 tables. You can basically say to my package, this is the main table and the dependents from that table I want as well. And then you could put backward branching on. By default it's true, so that just means it takes any table above the table you've mentioned to support any foreign keys within that main table. So let's try and create the data set. This is procedure. We'll basically go in, read all the tables that you have, figure out what types of data is in there, what are the relationships between the tables, what is the format of the data, and how can we build some packages to basically recreate that data somewhere else. So it took us about 16-17 seconds. Now if we look at the output from this, we can see that basically this user has 0 packages. Let's refresh. This test data creator basically created a bunch of new packages. One package for each table, and then it created what it calls the full table, the full package. This package is to create a full data set somewhere else. So what we can do now is we can take these packages and only the packages and move to our test database. So we're not moving any data, we're not moving anything that compliance would say you could move or couldn't move. We're simply moving a bunch of plsql packages so we can create these elsewhere. So let's imagine that our test database is somewhere else. Currently it's in my same database but in another schema. What we'll do is we'll move these packages. We'll only move packages. We'll find them all. We'll say move them to the new database. We'll finish here. And that's it. All done now. So if we go over here to our database connections and we look at our test schema, there's no tables in there. All there is are these packages that we just created in a different schema. And we move these packages in here, and basically what we can do now is use those packages to create test data. So now I have a package or a pipeline function within that package. I'm just here testing the employees table. So anytime I want to, I can now create a bunch of rows. I can even use that package to say, hey, I actually want a table called employees. So now if I go here under my test schema, I now have a table called employees. And if we open that one, we can see that it actually has data that is kind of similar to what we have in our production schema. Now let's drop this one again, because what we want to do is actually, we want to create a full data set in here. So in the main HR full, we can open the body for this one. Like I said, it's basically, you define a size of your test data set. It's a percentage. Predictable key, that's when you want to use basically a salt to make sure that your random data is the same data every time you use the package. And then override whether or not you want to override any tables you already have in your schema. But that's basically it. So if we run this now, it will basically go out and create all the tables. It will fill it with test data. So here we said we want a 50% size of what was in production. So if we go to employees, we open that one, we now have an employees table with 56 rows. If we check the original table, we can check here under the original schema. We said we wanted about 50%, so we should have, yeah, close to 50%. It's not, you know, 100% correct. It's just a approximation, because what you have to consider is there is referential rows as well. So those 50% has to basically flow down to every single table you're creating. So to basically make sure that all the referential constraints are still intact, which they are, we can test that as well. So here we have employees in our test schema. And if we look in here, there are foreign keys to a department table and a jobs table. So if we open departments down here, we can see that we have a normal department and the normal setup everywhere.